Sup guys, it's Alex here and welcome to a new bracketology update. This one is for March 8th, as you can see right there. And Joe Lunardi announced on Twitter I think it was yesterday, that he was revamping how he was doing the bracketology. It had been a while since he really took an in-depth look at it and looked at all the statistics and stuff like that. And it returned some interesting results. As you can kind of see right there, Tennessee is now at 1 seed and Kentucky is now down to a 2. That was kind of the biggest change. But before I get into kind of going in-depth and giving an analysis of the bracket, I just wanted to say thank you guys for all the support that you've been giving me on my recent videos. I think whenever I made this last bracketology update, only 2 days ago, I was at like 2,536. So I've gotten over 100 subscribers over the last 2 days, which is crazy to think about. So thank you guys for all the love and support that you've been giving me. And then yesterday, I released a video, my first NCAA Basketball 10 video on my channel. It was Butler versus Temple, which is a crazy first-round game. Went to overtime, so if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. I never would have thought that sort of video would have gotten over 1,000 views. I was thinking maybe like 300-400, so thank you guys for all the support there. That was really crazy for me to see, and I just really appreciative of that. So yeah, without any further ado, and I also forgot to mention, if I get to 3,000 subscribers by March 15th, which right now it is March 8th, the giveaway is only a week away. If I get to 3,000 by March 15th, I'll be giving away 3 tickets, so that just even gives you an even better shot of winning an NCAA tournament ticket. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends to subscribe. And yeah, so there's a little bit of plugs right there. Let's go ahead and get into the analysis. So up here we got Oklahoma, and which region is this? I think it's the East one, yeah. We got Oklahoma moving up to a 9 seed after beating Kansas at home. Alabama and Clemson are now in the play-in game. Kansas State is now up to a 4 after continuing their winning ways this week. St. John's is up to a 10. Then over here in the West Regional, we got Gonzaga remaining the 1. UC Irvine is now up to a 13. Utah State remains a 9, which I think they could be a sleeper team right there. Seton Hall is up to an 11 and sort of safely in the field after beating Marquette. They went on like an 18-0 run at the end of the game to beat Marquette. That was pretty impressive, I do have to say. LSU is remaining a 3, though I don't know what's going to happen with their coach there. It was announced, and like the wiretap and stuff like that, that he was basically talking about paying players to play and doing all this random stuff. I don't think he's going to be back next year. It was pretty bad. But we'll see what happens with that. Then over here in the South Regional, which I will be going to, I'll probably be vlogging it. I will be going with my dad, so we'll see what happens there. Don't want to make it too awkward and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens. Duke remains a 1, though North Carolina could take that spot depending on what happens in the game tomorrow. Don't know if Zion's going to play. If Zion doesn't play, I figure North Carolina will probably win and take over that number 1 seed. But we'll see what happens there. Then Marquette is now down to a 5. NC State and Temple are in the play-in game right there, which is crazy to think with NC State. I think they were projected to be like a 4 or 5 at one point during the season, but they've just been in a free-fall mode. I think on either Tuesday or Wednesday, they lost at home to a shorthanded Georgia Tech team, which is not what you want to be doing at this time in the year. Then Florida is now down to 11 seed after losing to Georgia and then losing a close one in overtime to LSU. There's just a blown opportunity there, but the Georgia loss is what really killed them. Old Dominion is now down to a 14. Texas is now down to a 10 after losing another game this week. I think it was Texas Tech. Kentucky is now down to a 2, as I mentioned earlier, which I'm okay with because they'll be in the Louisville Regional, but also I think Tennessee does have a better resume than they do at this point. There's not a whole lot of quality wins on Tennessee's resume, but there's not the 2 losses to Alabama and Seton Hall, so can't really say much there. I'm okay with Kentucky being a 2 seed in the Louisville Regional. It's looking good. And over here in the Midwest Regional in Kansas City, we got Tennessee being the number 1 overall seed. I don't think they should be a 1, but I think North Carolina should be in their spot. But we'll see what happens with that. Then we got Ohio State down to an 11 after losing by like 18 in Northwestern this week. They're kind of looking like NC State and have just been trending downward over the course of the season. Then Minnesota is now up to a 10 after winning at home against Purdue. Then a quick look at the bubble. We got the last 4 byes: Florida, Seton Hall, Arizona State, and Ohio State. Last 4 in are NC State, Alabama, Temple, and Clemson. First 4 out are TCU, Indiana, who has been killing it recently. They swept Michigan State. They beat Wisconsin at home. Then they went and beat Illinois on the road. So I mean, they've been making a good argument for staying in the field. And Creighton and St. Mary's, which Creighton also beat Marquette over the course of the weekend. Then we got Furman, Murray State, Dayton, and Butler, some mid-majors right there. Hopefully one of those 4 can get in. I'd like to see, especially like to see John Morant and Murray State get in, but we'll see what happens with that. So as you guys know, every time Joe Lunardi releases a new bracketology update, I go on Brackify.com. The link for this will be in the description, and make an interactive bracket for you guys to go ahead and vote and make your voices heard based off of his recent bracketology. And so, yeah, with any further ado, somebody has already voted. I made this like maybe 10 minutes ago. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get into the predictions. So we got Virginia beating the winner of Iona and Norfolk State, which doesn't matter who's going to win that. Hopefully Virginia doesn't blow it like they did against UMBC last year. I got Virginia winning that one. Then we have VCU losing to Oklahoma. I really don't like Oklahoma this season, but they just proved that they could beat Kansas, and VCU hasn't really beaten anybody too great this season. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma and win that matchup, a slight upset 9/8. Then we have Maryland beating the winner of Clemson and Alabama, which I think would be Alabama. Kansas State will beat Vermont. Then I'm going to go with Arizona State pulling off the upset here against Mississippi State. Mississippi State, for some reason, just seems like they can't really close out games, and they just kind of don't really put in the effort at the end, honestly, from what I've seen. I like Arizona State pulling off the upset there. Then we got Houston beating Mike Dowm and South Dakota State. We got Wofford, I think is how you pronounce it, Wofford, beating St. John's. Then we got Michigan State beating Wright State. Tennessee beating Sam Houston State. Syracuse pulling off another 9/8 upset there against Baylor. Virginia Tech beating Belmont. Wisconsin with Ethan Happ beating Hofstra. Earlier, I think I'd been predicting Wisconsin to lose to like Belmont or whoever, or Lipscomb, I think it was, in the first round. But I don't like this matchup for Hofstra here. I think Wisconsin gets the dub there as the 4 seed. I really don't think Auburn deserves to be a 6 seed at this point. I think they should be a 7 or an 8. But in this matchup, I really want Auburn to lose first round because I don't think they're that good of a team. But I mean, Ohio State's even worse, so I got to go with Auburn there. Texas Tech will beat Georgia Southern. I think Cincinnati would be a better 6 seed over Auburn. I think that they beat Minnesota. Then we got North Carolina beating Colgate. Gonzaga beating the winner of Prairie View A&M and St. Francis, which doesn't really matter. Kind of the same thing with the Virginia game. Doesn't really matter who wins that game. I got Gonzaga winning. Then we have Utah State beating Washington in another 9/8 upset. Then I'm going to go with another upset here. I was pretty high on Iowa State to begin the season, but they've just been pooping the bed recently. I think they lost again either Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday night. I like New Mexico State pulling off the upset here in the classic 12/5 game. Then we got Florida State beating UC Irvine. Buffalo, I think, will beat Seton Hall, though I think that would be a pretty good, interesting game to see. Then we have LSU beating Yale. Louisville beating Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss and Kermit Davis, I think they've lost like either 3 games in a row or 3 out of their last 4. They're not looking too good. A lot of them have been close, but they just haven't been able to close out games. I like Louisville in that matchup. Then we got Michigan beating Montana. Duke beating Chris Clemens, the nation's leading scorer, and Campbell. UCF, I think they got a huge win last night over Cincinnati at home on senior night. I think that they beat Iowa, who's just falling even further. They lost by like 20 to Wisconsin. Then I think that Marquette will beat the winner of NC State and Temple, which I think would probably be Temple at this point. Then I'm going to go with an upset pick here. Somebody else did too. I like Lipscomb beating Kansas. Kansas is losing all their players to injury or just leaving for personal reasons or whatever. I like Lipscomb pulling off the upset there. We got Nevada beating Florida. Then Purdue will beat Old Dominion. Villanova, I think, would beat Texas. And then Kentucky will beat Loyola Chicago. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Virginia beating Oklahoma. I think that Kansas State with, I think it's either Barry or Bruce Brown. I get it mixed up every single video that I do. I think that they'll be Maryland. Then we got Houston beating Arizona State and Michigan State beating Wofford. Then we have Syracuse, I think, is going to pull off the upset here. Monumental 9/1. Syracuse has been known to make crazy Cinderella tournament runs. I mean, they made it to the Elite 8 last year. Or not Elite 8, Sweet 16, and gave Duke a really tough time. And they made it to the Final Four like 2016, I think it was. I think that they pull off the upset here against Tennessee if they can shut down Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield. Then I think that Virginia Tech will get the victory here against Wisconsin. Then we got Texas Tech beating Auburn, North Carolina beating Cincinnati. Then we got Gonzaga beating Utah State, Florida State beating New Mexico State, LSU beating Buffalo, and then Michigan beating Louisville in a rematch of the 2013 National Championship game. Then somebody picked UCF here to beat Duke. I don't see that happen. I like UCF, but there's no way that they beat Duke. Then I think Marquette with Marcus Howard will beat Lipscomb. Then we got Purdue beating Nevada and Kentucky beating Villanova. Then for a spot in the Elite 8, I think Virginia gets the victory here against Kansas State as much as I'd like to see Kansas State win that game. Michigan State, I think, would beat Houston. Then I think that Virginia Tech would beat Syracuse and move on to the Elite 8. And we got North Carolina beating Texas Tech. I really like Texas Tech, but I don't like that matchup there against North Carolina. Then we got Gonzaga beating Florida State. LSU, I think, would get the victory here over Michigan with their trio of Tremont Waters, Something Smart, and then Naz Reid. I think they get the victory. Then we got Duke beating Marquette, though somebody picked Marquette to move on, but that was probably the person who picked UCF. I like Duke in that matchup there, stifling Marcus Howard. Then Kentucky will beat Purdue. Then for a spot in the Final Four, it seems like these two teams face off almost every single year in the tournament. Michigan State and Virginia. I think Virginia's going to move on here. I really don't feel confident saying that because they're not a very good tournament team, but I think that they get the victory there over Michigan State. Then I like North Carolina here in the battle of the ACC teams moving on to the Final Four. And then I'm going to go with a slight upset pick here. I'm going to go with the 3 seed LSU beating Gonzaga. And then Kentucky, I think, in the Louisville Regional, especially if Zion doesn't play and Duke shorthanded, I think they get revenge and move on to the Final Four with the support of Big Blue Nation in Louisville, which is only a 70-mile drive from the Lexington campus. And then for a spot in the national championship game, Virginia and North Carolina, the 2 best teams in the ACC. I'm going to go with North Carolina win that matchup. And then another SEC battle in the final on the other side of the Final Four. I like Kentucky getting their revenge against LSU after the obvious goaltend, but it's not reviewable, so the refs couldn't do anything about it. I like Kentucky getting that matchup if they're fully healthy. And North Carolina and Kentucky in the final. I think it's going to happen like what happened earlier this season with Kentucky beating North Carolina. If Kentucky is fully healthy with Reed Travis back, I think Kentucky gets the dub there. Otherwise, I think North Carolina wins. Battle of the 2 seeds for the national championship. I like Kentucky. So there you have it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. Turn those post notifications on. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you do, so that way you can enter the NCAA tournament ticket giveaway, and details on that will be in the description, so make sure you check that out as well. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all later.